Get ready and tune into the Doctor's Guide podcast, raw and unfiltered, a unique platform to help you optimize your health through dynamic role playing, real life challenges with expert guests and your host, Dr. Bart Rademaker.
I'm Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide, raw and unfiltered. And hopefully you've been following me for some time, but if not, that's okay too. Hopefully you will like what you hear today and will keep on following me, because what we have to share with you is so critically important, when it comes down to optimizing your health. And one of the challenges that I've seen as a plastic and reconstructive surgeon, helping with people in all types of transformation, not just the physical one, but the physiological one, the spiritual, emotional, all that kind of stuff, is that so many people want to get better. They're just not happy with the status quo, but unfortunately they don't make much progress because they're not making the best decisions for themselves. And why? Because with the onslaught of information, it's kind of overwhelming to figure out what's going to be good for you or not. So part of the reason for this podcast, the Doctor's Guide, is to curate and guide you in that process to make the best decisions. But ultimately, it's your responsibility. And so what we do here is we do role play so that you can actually witness yourself in this process and experience the process by which you can then make better decisions, as the guide so eloquently and wonderfully and magically sometimes helps someone to some form of resolution. Now, this role playing is only about 6 minutes, so obviously there's not a whole heck of a lot that we can do, but you'd be surprised how often we get some remarkable shifts. Cindy, for sure, if you want to see those shifts, go watch previous podcasts with her, because it's absolutely wonderful and magical to have those breakthroughs, and that's also possible for you. So what's going to happen in a moment is that after each of my guests introduces themselves briefly, then one of them will present with a particular problem, and then the other will be the guide towards some form of resolution. And after that, what we'll do is we'll unpack it. So what I mean by that, we'll kind of talk about what happened there. And so the total podcast was maybe about 25, 30 minutes at the most. And so that you leave with some very specific micro distinctions and action steps that you can take, potentially reaching out to them for support, for guidance, so that you can go on that journey for you to optimize your health. So I want to welcome once again Dr. Cindy Stark. Thank you so much for being here today. You're a frequent flyer, and so I love the fact that you bring all these amazing guests. And we have Alexandra as well. So Cindy, just briefly introduce yourself, then we'll go with Alexandra. And I know that Alexandra will be the one presenting with a problem today. Cindy.
Yep. So my name is Dr. Cindy Stark. I'm an internal medicine physician in Gainesville, Georgia. I retired from full-time medicine a couple of years ago so that I could really kind of pursue my passion as a physician, which is helping people with their mindset more than with their physical ailments that they always would kind of come into the hospital with. I felt like everybody was stuck in a revolving door, and we were kind of taking care of people at the very, very tail end of their lives. And what I really wanted to do is kind of really help people affect a change in their lives and get them about 4 decades earlier than they show up in the emergency rooms across America. So I have a mindset coaching program, and I help professionals, a lot of medical professionals, just get the freedom that they've always wanted. And then anybody else just to really unleash their inner champion within.
I love the work that you do, Cindy, and thank you so much, because here's the reality. Is that we spend 1/5 of our GDP on healthcare, of which 90% goes to chronic illness and mental health, all of which is predictable and preventable. So your work is incredible. So thank you for that. Alexandra.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm a former gut health coach, actually, and turned business coach for spiritual entrepreneurs and healers, because my mission is to support people who have big work to do in the world to get their work out on a bigger scale. And a lot of that is actually also about identity work, psychological backgrounds, and strengthening the inner world of these humans who do such incredible work in the world. And so, yeah, we use a lot of frequency technology, but also plain old behavioral psychology and whatever else shamanic tools come in the way. So strengthening the system from within, basically.
I love that. That is amazing. You're probably the first coach that I've encountered that is, directed specifically to spiritual leaders. And you know what? It's so critically important because the spiritual healers, they're on a different realm and sometimes need to be brought down to the ground with some guidance from people like you because their work is so critically important, which in fact is why I do what I do, is making it easier for all the different types of health practitioners, whether they're certified as doctors or not. So many of the non-medical and wellness providers, is guiding them and helping them be better at business and delivering their gifts to the consumer. And so that's also one of the reasons for this podcast. So great. So thank you, both of you. Alexandra, you have a problem and Dr. Stark will guide you.
I can't wait for Dr. Cindy to help me solve this. So I had a baby about 14 months ago, and he's amazing. I'm in my mid-40s. I'm turning 47 this year, and he's my third child. My previous ones, I feel like I got the baby weight down easier. And who knows what else is going on in my hormones right now. But yeah, if you could help me guide towards how to solve this and get my body back to that normal that I like it to be at, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. For
Amazing.
sure. So, is there any difference on the amount of weight that you're struggling with this time versus your other two pregnancies?
You mean how much I gained?
Yeah. Like, I mean, how much you're wanting to lose right now?
No, I think it's about the same. It's probably
Okay.
about 15 to 20 pounds.
Okay. Okay.
That's a
And,
lot.
what?
That's a lot.
Not really. I mean, I bet it's like 10% of your body weight, it's completely doable. So tell me what you have tried and what the results have been, or have you tried anything yet?
Yes, I had started some metabolic workouts in the summer to get my hormone system back on track. So shorter workouts, but with muscle burning and some HIIT stuff so that we get the blood flowing and out of breath kind of thing. And they worked, but I couldn't. I found them so boring after a while that I find it hard to stick to them, even though they really work. And I think my diet is really good, and I am not eating crap. I'm disciplined. I am not emotionally eating anymore because I've healed a lot of that in me. But it's just, yeah, I think the movement piece, if I had to be honest, is really hard for me to know what the right thing to do is and fitting it in my schedule the way I can.
Yeah. What kinds of things do you enjoy doing as far as movement goes? Like if you weren't trying to go and, do the HIIT workouts and the weights, what kind of things do you enjoy doing?
I enjoy dancing and I enjoy going on walks. I don't like hikes because walks for me need to be relaxing.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I like playing basketball with my son or, playing roughhousing with my kids, also fun.
okay. All those are great things, Alex, because really, I always tell people the thing that works the best exercise for you is the one that you're going to do more often and more consistently. And you live in California, which I feel like you guys are a little bit luckier than us that live in the South, where I feel like your temperature extremes aren't so crazy. I don't know, maybe they are. Are they?
No.
Yeah, they don't seem like they are. So I'm thinking that you could go for walks. A little bit more regularly year round, even than we can down here in Georgia. And then of course the basketball and the dancing, even if you just dance around with your kids, but I find that the key is to find something you really like to do and that brings your kids in with it too, if you want to do that, or doing it in a way that you like to, like the walking, where you said you want it to be relaxing, not hiking, because you don't want it to be making you, I think what I hear you saying is breathless, because there's a lot of hills out there too.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your water and your sleep.
My water, I drink filtered water. I filter out the fluoride as well. I have my frequency device, and I usually put frequencies into the water depending on what my scan says in the morning. And my sleep has gotten better. Of course, you know, with a newborn and a baby, you have to kind of retrain yourself again for sleep. So I think a lot of the stress factors have kept me awake at night. And so the more stress I resolve from my life, the better I sleep. Ooh, now you're telling me good to take care of less stress even for better sleep.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, a lot of times the sleep is the missing piece, you know, that might sound so counterintuitive, but it's literally how I think about my own life. But I feel like I want to treat my 8 hours in the bed like I'm getting paid for it. Like it's the most important, you know, like I'm a boss in the bedroom. I want to get sleep. That I prioritize that over anything else. And I think that, you know, if you can get yourself on a regular schedule, if the baby is sleeping through the night, then you will burn more fat and have more, you know, consistent stress levels and appetite levels all through the day if you prioritize the sleep at night. And so many of us just don't realize that. And we just start at 9 o'clock at night, pull our laptop out and start doing a bunch of work at night because that's when everybody's asleep. And it just sets you up for the opposite of sleep, you know? And so, yeah, optimize your sleep, try to get 8 hours if you can. And then water, how much water? I hear you saying that you have the filtered water and the frequencies, and I want her to talk about that. But how much water are you getting in a day, would you say?
I have these large mason jars, and I try to drink about 2 of them a day.
Okay.
What is that? I have one here. It has
If it's a quart jar, that's 4 cups, I think.
no, it's
Bigger?
8 cups. No, 4. I think it says 4 pints. Is that a lot?
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay, then you're doing okay on the water. Yeah, I think Alex, I would for right now with your kids. You got 3 kids, very active and busy. Stick to the dancing, the walks, the basketball, and the roughhousing, and then prioritize that sleep. And I can be here to hold you accountable or answer any other questions as time goes on. But just try not to get yourself in too agitated of a state or like a professional minded state right before bedtime. Like really set up a ritual about an hour before you go to sleep, where even if you just like sometimes I don't feel like turning on my diffuser with my lavender oil, so I'll just get the lavender oil and I'll just put a drop behind each ear. I'll go ahead and get my pajamas on. I'll start going ahead and turning down all the lights in the house an hour before, and it really helps me. And of course I use my Mag Healy on sleep all night, every night. But just kind of set those rituals into place and really prioritize your sleep, and I think you're going to see the needle start moving.
Oh, okay. Some part of me tells me like, is that enough to do? Like, is that all I have to do? Just
Well, I
really.
just think that you're so good. I mean, I've visited you in California, and I feel like I know how you eat. And I just think that the eating is not the problem. I think it's the stress and the sleep and the movement piece. You're like trying to make yourself do something that's not aligned with who you are right now. And you, like you said, you're getting bored with it. And sometimes we just make the movement piece so much harder than it needs to be. And what needs to be is consistent and something that you enjoy. And one other thing I want to say, this is really, really out there, but it helps me. But if you can like look yourself in the mirror, you know, bra and panties on, no clothes on, doesn't matter, and love, like physically send love to those parts of your body that has like all those 20 pounds that you want to get off, and thank it for being there for you, making that healthy baby boy and getting you through a very stressful last 12 months of your life, because I know you've been through a lot. And it literally just thank those parts of your body, and if you show them those parts that you love them, then you can release them, and you're not, you know, otherwise you're just kind of like fighting against yourself, and they kind of stay around more than we want to.
And let's
That's-
wrap it up, guys. We're good.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts, Alexandra?
No, I think that last energetic piece will be a big piece of it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I feel
Fantastic.
that.
All right. So first question. So thank you both. That was wonderful. Alexandra, what was that all about for you?
What was it all about for me? It was really about looking where I am not honest with myself in the way that I already know, right? Because a lot of us already know. So as soon as I started talking to Cindy, I realized that it's the movement piece for me. I already knew that, right? And the stress and the sleep I've been working on very diligently and helping my nervous system, but more like, yeah, that movement piece. I need to click it in. And I already knew that, but I had Cindy as a mirror. So that was very powerful, because otherwise I wouldn't have dared to maybe admit that to myself.
I love it. Awesome. Cindy, what was that all about for you?
Well, I found myself getting emotional for some reason, even just talking to her about sleep. I think that as moms, a lot of the voices in our heads, more than anybody's, are the voices of our kids. And every time my kids come home from college, they give me a hard time about, going to sleep as early as I do. And they're like, "Oh, mom, it's 7 o'clock. The sun's going down. You better get your pajamas on." And I'm like, y'all don't know what it's like to be 54 years old. And, y'all just do whatever you want to do and keep it down out in the living room. But I have musicians for kids. So they're like banging on drums, and they want me to play games with them at night and stuff like that. So anyway, I just realized that you really have to prioritize it yourself, because other people might be the naysayers that are your own dang kids. And so you're worth it, is what it was for me, just knowing that you're worth it.
Mm.
Well, I mean, you're so lovable, Cindy. So guess what? Your kids want to hang out with you.
I
Well, this
know.
is amazing. This definitely is an area that is affecting so many people, not just postpartum, but many others. And I think it's over 60%, maybe 70% of the American population is overweight. And that's, the root cause of many, chronic illnesses that we see today. So I love the conversation, and I just want to simply add a couple of things, in that, and and really, stress obviously is a big one that's gonna, cause you to gain the weight. Lack of sleep is the big one, because that's really associated with weight gain and all sorts of chronic illnesses. And so if you don't sleep well, and also because of stress, it becomes a problem. And so sleep hygiene is a big issue. And then you also have these grounding mats that are incredibly helpful. And I'm gonna, vouch for a particular company called the Anti-Aging Bed. Just reach out to them. And I tried a different, grounding bed from a different company, and it was amazing. I mean, my deep sleep, increased by 500%. And I was struggling for years. I was using the Aura Ring and everything else to measure, and suddenly it got this grounding bed. It's like, whoa, and my deep sleep. And it's really in the deep sleep that all that healing happens. And so if you're going to bed stressed and then you're still waking up, unrestored, it just adds up over time. But the other key thing that I think is so important that a lot of people forget is what you don't manage, what you don't monitor, you don't manage. And so you have to measure. You have to measure your habits. You have to measure the results and all those kinds of things. And certainly there's a lot of great exercise protocols. I think what the recommendations typically are 30 minutes a day, moderate, activity, and then, switching around between aerobic and strength exercises and that kind of stuff. But the final thing that I think that's a paradigm shift, and I talk about this on many of these podcasts, is reach out to the DNA company, because the DNA company has, and there's going to be a link at the bottom of this that you can go to, and you'll get about 10% off of that. But understanding your DNA profile as it matches all the metabolic pathways, they really help you understand how your physiology works. And unless you start doing those kinds of things, it may be a big struggle. And it's also about measuring. So that's one other thing that you can measure. It's super easy, super affordable, and the company is pretty amazing. So I'm going to give the mic to you guys. Whatever it is that's present, what's on your heart, what you want to share. Starting off with Alexandra.
Well, what you just said about the DNA company is really fascinating, because Cindy and I were talking the other day about how bright our light can shine is depending on the health of our DNA. And so many spiritual healers are talking more about the crystalline DNA strands, right? But then on the other side, there's also epigenetics. So it's really all about cleaning up the DNA, and the restorative sleep makes such big sense in that regard, right? So I'm excited to check that out.
I love it. And I'll add a little bit to that later on if there's time. Cindy, let's unpack more about what you were recommending and any questions that you might have.
Yeah, well, I was going to tell her too. It's not just get more sleep. I mean, the reason that, and I really think sleep is the cornerstone, is because when you don't get the sleep that your body needs, the cortisol levels are high. They start high in the morning, and they are going to drive you to eat a lot, like more calories, sometimes 30% more calories, just because you're just trying to get that sugar level up so you can kind of function throughout the day. And so there's a lot of science behind that. And then I just also wanted to add that it's so confusing trying to follow the weight and fitness industry, because some people will tell you to intermittent fast, and other people will tell you you need to be eating every 2.5 hours, and some people will tell you don't eat any meat, and other people will say you gotta eat meat. So it is very confusing, and I'm hoping that when I get in touch with this DNA company, that it will help me figure out what is best for my body type, because I too am very confused by all the conflicting data out there.
No, and that's a big issue right now, and especially, because of all these books and all these trends, and now you got this fad diet, and now you got that fad diet, and it gets really frustrating.
Yes.
And that's why, one of the things that my mission is, and the narrative oftentimes on these platforms, is about data. You got to have the right data. And so it's either you're monitoring, your own biometrics, or you're monitoring your DNA, what's going on there, because that is the secret, the secret to, understand what you can and cannot do. But one thing is true about diet, by the way, and I learned this from Dr. Daniel Pompa. And if you ever want to learn from him, just reach out to his website, Dan Pompa. And he talks about nutritional variety. And so the variety is not only about timing, which is the big one, but it's also about the types of foods. And so a lot of people think, variety is more about foods. It's actually more about the timing. So it is about the intermittent fasting. It is about, longer day fasting. It is about, 3 to 5 day fasting, but it's also a variety of the foods, from ketogenic to high, carb or high protein. And I'm not going to give any specific recommendations here, but that allows your body what's called metabolic flexibility. And so our body does prefer to use fats, by the way. That's how we're designed. But look into these kinds of things, and whatever it is that you're eating, obviously, minimize the inflammatory diets. Back to you guys.
I don't know if I have anything else to say. Yeah.
Well, you did have a question. You wanted to ask something, Alexandra.
Oh yeah. Alexandra was talking about how she starts her day with frequency water, and I just wanted her to elaborate on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because people might not even know what that means at all.
Well, there's a lot of talk about water molecules being easily programmable, right? And there's lots of imagery that can be taken, especially when those molecules freeze. And I have a little frequency technology device called Healy, and I run in the morning, I run a little scan on my system, and it tells me which water frequency is most needed. And there's 12 different, there's a different Healy than that that programs my water. And there's, I think, 24 programs on there. And sometimes it even gives me the recommendation of drinking plant water. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Today I need the same water as my plants. But what's really incredible is that it always picks something up. For example, on days when I'm feeling a little more down, it recommends me the heart opening water. Or when I've had a very stressful day and I do it in the afternoon, it recommends me the after stress water. Or it's really on point. And so at first I was a little bit more like, oh, the water is a nice thing to have. I didn't buy it because of that, but now I do it every day, and it adds so much to how my body is nourished from the inside with the right water. And I think it's also been helping me with, I have a lot less cravings since I do that, funnily enough, or not funnily enough.
Wow, that's spectacular. And listeners out there might be thinking, how is this even possible? Well, it's all the stuff that you don't know that you didn't know that makes all the difference. And what's beautiful about the last, say, 20 years for sure is the reigniting many of the research protocols and ideas over the last 200 years that were put aside for all sorts of different reasons and now coming online and actually make a huge difference. And one thing, water is most important because 80% of your body is water. It is a molecule. It conducts, information throughout the body, whether it's energetic information or just hormonal information. So the quality of water makes a difference. And there are a lot of devices out there. I'm not familiar with the Healy one, so I can't say anything about it. But the truth is that, all molecules affect each other. And so if the molecules in the water are in a certain configuration to limit your access to, let's say, efficient metabolism, let's just keep it as simple as possible, that can happen. And so rather than going too deep in that, so understanding those kinds of things. But again, as with anything, do your due diligence. It's really up to you to decide if this is something worthwhile for you or not. But here's the big game changer is you can't just try it out a couple of times. You have to be persistent, daily ritual over time, and probably within about maybe 3, if you're lucky, 6, maybe 8 or 12 months, you'll start seeing the results. So please, Cindy, Dr. Stark, please wrap it up with how do people find you and final comments, and then we'll go with Alexandra.
Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing about the water, and maybe we could put this in the show notes. I would need to find the link myself, but there are crystalline structures of the water that changes even if you say hateful things to the water, or if you write different words. It's the intention behind your actions to the water, and then, or they can be beautiful water crystalline structures if you kind of say loving words to the water. It's really fascinating there, but it's a tried and true scientific principle. So I would
Well,
love.
let me add on to that. If nobody believes that, just try this out. Just get a jar, put rice in it, white rice. Get 2 jars, 2 and white rice in both. Add some water, and then separate them in your fridge. And then to the one, just say all these loving words and just beautiful words and melodies and everything else. And to the other one, just say hateful things. And you will see that the one that you say the hateful things turns dark and brown, whereas the other one is nice and white. Just try it out. So how do people find you, Cindy?
Yeah. So I'm on the internet at drcindystark.com, and then also in Facebook is where I hang out more than anything, and that's Cindy Stark, and Stark has an E on the end.
Great. Alexandra. Oh wait, Cindy, final words?
Well, those are my final words. It's
Okay,
just
that was your
water
final
and,
word.
and
Okay,
how
great.
the water.
Awesome. Alexandra, your turn. How do people find you, and final words?
Final words is I just want to stack on this that intention is everything. Like as soon as you add intention to everything you do, you're going to make it way more meaningful, and you're going to have the universe's support behind you. Whether that's water or how you raise your kids or how you run your business or how you go shopping, whatever it is, where you put your dollars, put intention behind it and make your life more magical. And I'm also on the internet, alexandradanielli.com, 1L, or also on Instagram, alexandra.danielli. That's like the boy's name, Daniel, with an I in the end.
I love it. And so precise. That's amazing. Love this conversation. And for all those out there listening, please understand this is that it's really up to you to begin that process of making better decisions. We're just role playing here today. These are real issues for most people. Some people will get triggered, and that's okay, because that means that's the signal that you have your work to do. Because ultimately, illness is a choice. Health is also a choice. We have the solutions out there. We have the people out there. Reach out to either Cindy or Alexandra or anybody else on this platform to help address these very specific things that ail you. And so I want to thank both Dr. Stark and Alexandra. Thank you for that. And my name is Dr. Bart Rademaker, and this is the Doctor's Guide podcast, Raw and Unfiltered. We'll be back.
Thank you for listening to The Doctor's Guide, an innovative approach to help you navigate the complexities of your health journey with Dr. Bart Rademaker and his expert guests. Tune in to more insights and action steps on our next episode every weekday at 6 p.m. Eastern.